Hi, I'm Mikkel Weber, founder and auteur of House of Peregrine. Expat, immigrant, pioneer, none of these were a fit, but Peregrine describes what we are all about perfectly. Those that craft their life story with intention. I've spent the last 6 years in awe of the life-changing connections and stories I have experienced while living abroad, and believe it is time for this adventure to be recognized, celebrated, and elevated to the life stage that it is. Through these interviews, I hope to connect those living internationally more deeply to both the place they are living and with themselves and those around them. We cover everything from international finances and meaning-making to global parenting and relationships to make your time abroad more intentional, edifying, and full of beauty. Find us at houseofperegrine.com, where you can find more ways to connect with the ethos of Peregrine. I hope you enjoy today's guest. Let's get started. And welcome back to the House of Peregrine podcast. Today we're diving into a conversation about life design, how we can be intentional about shaping our lives in ways that align with who we are and what we truly want. To guide us through this, I'm joined by someone who has made this her mission. Today, I'm talking to Sofie Fremont, founder of Beyond Boundaries Consulting and a trailblazer in bringing the globally renowned Design Your Life methodology to the Netherlands. With over 15 years of experience in corporate sales, marketing, and innovation, Addis now helps internationals navigate life's transitions with clarity and purpose, leading transformative workshops that empower people to build lives that truly reflect their values and aspirations. Journey is a testament to this, having lived in France, China, Finland, Spain, and now Amsterdam. Addis knows firsthand what it means to adapt, redefine, and design a life that feels fulfilling. She's deeply passionate about personal development, sustainability, innovation, and she collaborates with experts like Mario Varvolgas, who first introduced Designing Your Life in Paris in 2020. She now calls Amsterdam home, where she lives with her husband and 2 girls aged 4 and 6. I'm so excited to dig into her insights on life design, transitions, and how we can all be a little more intentional about the paths we take. Addis, I'm so excited to finally have you on. We've been working on this for a little bit, so welcome.
Thank you so much. I love your introduction. So nicely said.
Oh, good. I think it fits you. So I want to start out by backing up a little bit and giving our audience a little bit of an idea of how you went from, I think you have a great story of going from corporate and transitioning into Design Your Life. So could you walk us through that a little bit?
Yes, certainly. So I moved to the Netherlands 15 years ago, and the first company I worked with was a billion company, but it was a very small team. We were 25. And so the environment that I was working was very specific to a small company, let's say in terms of number of employees. And then I transitioned to corporate. And there was a completely new world. And actually this, if I may say, I actually quite like the corporate environment because it was very different in a way that before I was in my BlackBerry until really late at night and working without really having working hours and traveling a lot, living on Sunday, sometimes coming back on Friday. And in the corporate setting, there was a lot more boundaries. So in every companies I have been, there was always a positive and negative or advantages and disadvantages. And so then I went to corporate and I went to 2 companies. I could go into much more detail. And at some point I was laid off twice. And then that helped me to really think about what do I wanted to do. And in the first company that I worked with for a long time, I felt, it's like this love and hate relationship where you have to move on, but you stay because it's familiar, the people, it's like your second family. And yet, so you want to move on, but you don't. And then, so for many years, I was in this uncertainty of like, shall I stay or shall I leave? And I think it was very clear. My manager knew it, but we didn't want to really completely be apart and grow apart. And through that transition in thinking, my personal growth started. And I was always very passionate about that, knowing myself better. And I think through that journey, I gained more confidence. And the more confidence I gained, I was able to say no or take projects I really wanted because of past experience. And so when the time came to take a break, I was like, okay, let me really, really think of what I want to do next. So
And this followed your path up. So this is all the way from like before you had kids and a husband, all the way to when you say you took a break.
Yeah. So like corporate is me growing from being an independent and growing. So in the first company, 7.5 years, I wasn't married. So that was like a very accelerating, exciting, intense lifestyle that was not very compatible with a family life. And corporate allowed me to have my first child. And then the second corporate company also allowed me to have some safety and being able to juggle with both.
You've navigated from being a single person to motherhood very strategically in a way, maybe not knowing your end goal. But I think the question is that I have for every woman is, how did you navigate this? Because that is, everyone does it differently. Everyone has ups and downs. And so I always just love telling this story for people because I think women are so clever, resourceful, and it's also heartbreaking sometimes to go through that transition.
Yeah. So for me in this first job, one of the reasons why I knew it wasn't compatible is like I was always postponing the fact to be engaged or the fact to be a mother because I felt or I thought that was completely in my head. They made us believe, or that was the culture, that being a mother and being a trader slash salesperson was not something compatible. And so that's why I delayed, I think, motherhood for some years. And then when I was in corporate, I think I gained so much more confidence that if I would have a child, they wouldn't let me off, which was not completely true, but that's what I thought. Yeah.
I have a similar story where I definitely got pregnant after 5 years and was shown the door, but I didn't work in corporate. So they're like, oh, you're pregnant. Great. Here you go. Goodbye. Have fun.
Yeah. I do have a similar story.
Yeah.
But I think it's true that it's really hard if you travel a lot. It's super intense. You do like 50 hours a week and then combine it with a family. Otherwise, you're never there. So there is a truth in both sides.
Of course.
But I
Of
think
course.
it's for no one to decide but yourself. And that's what I think is a shame. If I want to be a present mother, that's my choice. If I don't want to be a present mother, that's my choice too. So how do you navigate that? I think it should not be for the society to decide, but rather what does feel right for you? What feels right? And what's your vision of motherhood, couple, life?
Yeah. I find it super interesting. And it's the same transition. It's a life transition that you've never done before until you've done it. And so I think it's really helpful for us to hear these stories, not to scare people, but like to help know that you're going to have to navigate something new.
So I have a friend of mine, she made a post and a friend, like a man friend and a female friend, two different stories. They said, no one told me about these true facts or stories about being a parent. You always thought it's fluffy, it's amazing, it's shiny, it's the best. I had children. It was not the best. I suffered. It was difficult. Why no one tells me this story? And so that's why I point out that, like, if you want to be a parent, just talk to many people, because you may identify better with one person than another. And I think if you believe you can make it, you will make it. And everyone has different experience with parenthood. So for me, I had ups and downs, and now I'm in a really good place. But it's true that at the beginning it was difficult. Just a parenthesis about parenthood.
Yeah. Well, and I always say it's like a big project. So you can't have two full-time jobs at once and expect it not to be full on. And I wish we can talk all day long about how society doesn't recognize that. But that was something that I think as an international person, it's even more present. If you have to be even more strategic and know what you're dealing with, know the realities, and actually just stay really close to your values, even if that means reinventing yourself or things like this. And so I think what I love about what you're doing, and I want to talk more about it, is you are the embodiment of this, and now you're helping other people do it.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that one of the reasons that I transitioned, like I really went back to what do I really want to do, it's because of this really strong experience of being a parent. Because if you go through parenthood, you know how much limited your time is. So when you are single/no parent, you think you have no time. When you're a parent, you understand what it is to have no time for yourself. And because I went through that time and I went through baby blues, and I was like, I'm never going to be myself again. I'm never going to be free again. I'm only going to be a parent. And for me, like the first months, first days, and then I think the first year, it felt like I wasn't the person I was before having children. And you're never exactly the same, but I missed this freedom. And so because of that, I was like, okay, what's the purpose of life? You know? You have so little time. What do I want this time to be spent on? And that was, I think, a really big kick for me on like deep, like looking at life with more meaning.
Yeah, it almost caused you to have an existential shift, it sounds like.
Yeah. I was just thinking about people that I admire who did had a change in attitude. And sometimes they go through near to death experience. And I said, I never want to go like there. I don't want to go burnout. But for sure, it was a trigger for me to think about time and meaning and what do I really, really want to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that it is a death portal. I always talk about death portals and how it doesn't have to be death. It can just be transition. It's a transition. And so parenthood is a really big one that really helps you get your time is more precious. There's many others though, and sometimes they can be self-inflicted. So if you just have a notion that maybe you're not fulfilling or doing the direction you want to at your work or in your life, you can kind of head this off in a way as well. You could do it more intentionally, it seems to me. And that's what I'm always trying to encourage people to do is accept that these portals are coming and really be intentional about them and use that wisdom from people before you and maybe do it in community or with others who have done it before you. Motherhood's a great example for me of something that I had to go through that portal alone and figure things out. And I think we all kind of did during, this was 15 years ago, 14 years ago. So I'm always trying to encourage people to find your people, do all this stuff. And so yeah. How did what you're doing now, how does your experience with becoming a parent inform what you're doing now, even though you're not working with parents?
So I think it's not directly linked. It's like, when you have your story, it's like one thing leads to another that leads to another.
Yeah. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So I think talking about what do I do now and what you mentioned the sense of community. And I think for expats specifically, I see a lot of friends who join as like, my pain was I couldn't find my people. My pain is that I was alone. And I think this is a similar story for you. And that's why I see so many communities happening, specifically after the COVID, because you have forgotten how to get out there, talk to your neighbor, sharing your food, opening your door. And so because we have been so close for a long time, we miss like the openness and the community. And so my story is when I came across what I'm offering now with designing your life is go through a method, but not doing it alone, doing it with like-minded people who are in that same mindset of growth mindset. And like, I want to make a shift and I would like to do it with someone else. And really the power of designing your life as doing it in a collaborative way is that not only you do it in this really intense, beautiful 2.5 day or 2 days, but then you can stay connected with the community. And the hardest to find is to find these people. I have tried. It's really difficult. So I can tell you about that, but it's really difficult.
Yeah. I want to get to that and how it all works a little bit later, but I want to hear your story when you first landed in Amsterdam all the way to what you're doing today. Like, give one thing led to another. That's what you just said. Tell us that story quickly.
Yes, quickly. So I think unlike a lot of people who come from really, really far, I'm coming from France to the Netherlands. It's a 3 hours train, 3.5. So door to door, 5 hours. So the terms of distance, culturally, physically, mentally, it's much easier. And you mentioned I was living in China. And so for me, Europe, anywhere in Europe feels very familiar. And first I can go back France if I want to, and I can have most of the product. And also there's a big community of French people in the Netherlands. So that's a big difference with my previous experience where having a croissant was the highest delight and having a fresh cheese was really hard to find. and going back for Christmas was a big project. So I think in that way, it differentiates me as an expat as a European versus non-European.
Yeah.
And so,
and what were you doing in all of those countries? So we should back up because you have lived in a lot of countries.
yeah.
Was that just for work, or how did that inform?
So why China? I was studying international trade, so international business. And I always imagined myself traveling the world and trading and negotiating and talking to people. And I was like, if I call myself, and I'm going to an international school, I speak Spanish, so I have seen Latin America. I speak English, so I've been to a few places, but I know nothing about Asia and specifically China, the growing and biggest market. And so I was like, well, I need to learn Chinese and I need to understand the culture. So I studied Chinese in the business school. And clearly after 2 years, I couldn't have a conversation. I just knew by heart a few words and I could read some Chinese, but not so much. And so I truly believe that if you're motivated and you go with the purpose of learning and communicating, you will learn much faster. So I decided at this point, because opportunity came as well, I decided to go and experience how it is to live in China. And everyone told me that's crazy. This is really far. You're escaping your life here. You go for the wrong purpose. Like, I was not very much like, I didn't have a strong support, even my close family. And so when I went there, I also just had some savings from an internship. So I had very little money. So I go to China, and I have to find my school. I have to find my accommodation. I knew of someone from my school that I talked to a few times, and that's it. I knew nobody. So here, that was like the hard experience, but it was also very nourishing. It was really hard, but you get to learn so much when it's harder, right? And so it was incredible experience. It was beautiful. But then I had the chance, I was there in 2008, to also join the Olympic Games, because I was a former swimmer and my trainer was going there. My former mates were going there, so I could go and support. So my dream came true, because my dream was to go to Olympics as a swimmer, but I went there as a volunteer at the French house. So amazing experience, dream come true. And then 2008 crisis came. So a lot of the friends that I had then were cutting contracts, like the expat super good package. Slowly, there was no longer those offers. And so I had two options. Either I would have a Chinese salary and not an expat salary if I would decide to stay. But mainly I was missing the family, but I was mainly missing fresh air. It was super polluted. I've seen the city completely transform through the Olympics. And I was like, if I had to choose a country, where would it be? Somewhere close to my family, with, I imagine, some blue sky. So you cannot tell Netherlands is a blue sky, but something like less busy and less, yeah. But China was incredible, because I experienced the, like we say, the American dream. Well, at that time, it was, for an expat, the white person, it was the Chinese dream. You could make anything happen in that city, because no one knew your background, and you were so unique that everyone thought you're special. So you had way more opportunities back then. Well,
Interesting.
Then. Yeah.
Interesting.
So then I decided, okay, well, it's 2008. I'm going back to Paris. I'm going back home with the hope of finding a job. And there, I did some freelance for Bain & Company and a few companies, but I couldn't find truly a job. It's like completely hire freeze, very hard to find. And so I talked to a few companies, and small companies tell me, I believe it's really interesting. You speak Spanish, you speak French, now you speak some Chinese, you have lived in several countries, but I think you will be bored. And so at that time, I was offended. My ego say, you don't want me? But then I reflected and I thought, you're so right. I don't fit into like the French culture of everyone's the same. You need to do this diploma and then your career path is done for the rest of your life. So that for me didn't really resonate for many reasons. I don't come from a, like, let's say, most traditional French background. And so I thought, yeah, I think Anglo-Saxon is more reflects better my mindset of like, if you try and believe in yourself and you have the right mindset, then opportunities will come to you. And that's exactly what I did by moving to the Netherlands, where an opportunity came up, where it was really about like, do you have the right attitude? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to put the work? And that's how my career, like, let's say, journey came. And obviously I went from China to biking and having the Dutch lifestyle, which is great. Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Okay. So then you've spent quite a few years in Amsterdam now, and this is kind of where you met your partner, your husband. You've gone through a lot of transitions within a transition of Amsterdam. And so let's go over that again. So you were working in corporates, you were working in a smaller company, then you went to corporates, and then you became a mother. And you held off becoming a mother because you weren't quite sure how it was going to work, is what you said before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you really had to have this, and I want you to tell us that story again. You really had to go through this portal of figuring out what was important for you in your life. Talk about that a little bit more. So
this very first company I mentioned that I was in, and I had like, do I stay or do I leave? Do I stay or would I leave? It took me 3 years to actually take the step. So wow. I cannot say I was quite an example then. I really postponed and I was unsure and I was afraid. Honestly, I was just afraid because, as I mentioned, I found a job in a time where there was no job. So my mind was talking to the old belief that it's going to be hard for me to find a job. And so that's why I talk about beliefs and like history and experience and what do you tell yourself? So that's what I believe, like, I'm never going to find a job as good and as well paid and with blah, blah, blah. And then at some point I slowly like really reflected and I took a coach because I was like, okay, now I'm ready. I'm ready to take the steps. I took a coach and she was just starting her coaching business. So she was doing it part-time. And actually she said, yeah, okay, but my first availability will be in 3 months from now. I was like, okay, I mean, I've waited for 3 years. I can certainly wait for 3 months. And imagine in these 3 months that I told myself I'm ready, then someone reached out and the HR and the hunting and then it was a great fit. And then by the time I started, I was 2 weeks in the new job. So wow. You see, like, I believe that if your mind is ready, then things will follow. So that's my belief. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I also believe that. Like, I always think, unfortunately or fortunately, my belief is if I can figure out what I want, it usually finds me. But that's the hardest part, or the most fraught maybe, with what you're saying, which is these beliefs that you have to actually look at and navigate and figure out through each transition. And it sounds like you had beliefs about motherhood and what that would look like next to. Yeah, so I think motherhood was a postpone, like even the marriage, because marriage is a step before motherhood, was something I was not really like, with my partner, we never discussed, let's get married. We discussed, let's have a family in the future. So when he proposed, it was a shock for, no one knew, and it was a shock for me. You know, most couples say, oh, let's get married, yeah. And then they find a date. For me, he proposed, I'm like, really? I thought we were not talking about that. And so yeah, and then my transition, motherhood was like when I got married, the intention was always to have a family. So that came like kind of naturally, but because I just started a job after getting married, I was like, let me give me a true 1 year to experience corporate and have this job that I like do it well. And then I went, and then I was like, okay, now I'm ready. I know the job. I know the routine. I know the people. And then we decided to have our first child after a year plus. Nice. And so when you were doing that, did you saw kind of the power of intention or knowing the direction you wanted to go? Was that a paradigm that was also building for you, or have you always kind of operated that way, where you have to deal with limiting beliefs and all this stuff to get to where you want to go? How did that develop through your journey? So clearly I had, like everyone has his way or her own way of doing things consciously and unconsciously. And the thing that worked for me always was when I could visualize it. And it was before this whole trend about visualization and call it, and before all of this, I always had that thing that is like, I feel it. This is really where I want, like, I know it's happening, but there is just like, my body told me that's where I'm going to be. And so it was always very natural, because once I visualized it, I'm just behind my vision. So it's just happening. So that was always something that really worked for me. So sometimes when I cannot visualize it, I need to wait because I'm not fully convinced, or it's not the right time, etc., etc. So that's something, the way I operate it in a way. And my system, my beliefs, I never really thought of, until I got into designing your life, I think I never did this exercise and homework of deconstructing your beliefs. So that's really something that came more recently.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of did it organically. Like you had your system and it kind of worked. You got to China, you were doing international business. It sounds like, and this is actually something that's really nice to remember, is that 2008 was a big deal. Like it really impacted your beliefs about the world and what was possible. And then maybe you had to re-examine that. Was that something you had, like a mini trauma or something? A lot of people went through this where they couldn't find a job after they graduated.
Yes. The not having a job was a fear of not finding one, for sure. And I think, clearly that was my story. So that's, for a long time was the reason why I didn't take a step. And if I look at other people, because imagine I graduated 2007, right? So in that year, I had interviews after interviews after interviews, and I have my teacher begging me, can you please go to this consulting firm because you would be a great match. Just try, just go. So I went through a 360 from, I had 5 offers on the table. I even went to a company that was doing, auditing. And I say, I'm not interested in auditing. I'm interested in strategy. They would only take MBA, and they offered me a job. So there were the possibilities were really, really open. And then suddenly I come and a year later, or a year and a half later, and then there are no jobs. There's no more open office with 100 people queuing to having this open day, nothing.
That was one big, I don't like to use the word trauma, but an event, something that happened in your professional life. Then becoming a mother was another event. And I like to frame these things, at least in my life, that they inform the way your life turns until you examine them, and then it goes away. So did you find that? And I think what you're doing with Design Your Life is a combination, I can't wait to get to this, is a combination of looking at your beliefs and charting your course. And that's something that's really important in life in general, if you want to get to where you want to go, but especially if you're an international person. I think it's really, really important, because there really are no paths if you're not at a corporate job. Even if you are at a corporate job and you want to make a move, these are things that are these are skills, these are life skills. They're not just special skills that people need. They're now in our economy and in the world economy actually necessary skills to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get into Design Your Life later, but what we do is really empowering people to get to learn the skills. So it's not only knowing about yourself, it's knowing the technique so that you can reuse it and learn.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
that's
let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So tell me about Design Your Life.
I have the book. So the story is a friend of mine. Her name is Julie. I want to thank her because back in 2016, she, in a woman dinner table, she mentioned, "Oh, I came across this book, Designing Your Life. I think you would really like it. It represents you. You design your life. That's where you want to be, and I see how you visualize and make it happen. I think that would get you to the next level." And I'm all in personal development. Definitely, I'm gonna buy the book. So I go online, buy the book, and it's great. It's really, I think the framework is amazing. I don't do my exercise immediately because it takes time. So I park it, and then it comes back, and then I do one exercise. I park it. I do the second exercise, and then I get to the end of the book. And it says, now it's really important that you find your community, your small group, 3-4 people, well, minimum 2, 4 ideal, of people who are doing this, who are in that phase of life. And so I'm like, yeah, super easy. I mean, how difficult is it to find 2 people? So I give the book to a few friends of mine who talk about oh, it would be nice to live abroad and retire early and having those dreams. I was like, oh, great, you're dreaming, me too. Here's the book. And then nothing happens. They maybe do the first chapter, no exercise, definitely not interested in it. Then I talked to other friends who were in other self-development group who match really well. And then they didn't want really to dig into their life with me. Like, who am I? Like, so I couldn't find a crowd. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do DYL. And for sure, there was no DYL in Europe at that time. So I was like, oh, it's really something that would be nice. And I parked it for a while. And then a year later, I was like, well, at least the one person that I need to align with is my husband. I mean, we live together. We're taking the decision of my life alone. This is what I realized when getting married. So let's align. So same. He got the book. He read a few chapters. We didn't really could find the moment to really go deep to share what our dreams are. So I made a holidays in disguise, and I booked a ticket to Bali for our daughter, who was 10 months, and my husband. And I said, honey, we're going on our holidays and we're going to design our life together. Yeah. So we took 3 days of a nice hotel, getting familiar with the space. And then we moved to Canggu to a nice hotel. And every morning I would go yoga and he would do his exercise. And then we would take our juice and brainstorm. And then we'd go from chapter to chapter to module. And that was really new for us because we would not have a space and a framework that would allow to do that. And so that was my very first experience with sharing it with someone else. And that, for me personally, for both of us, it really got us from we do what people do, we follow the 20 days of holidays, to let's really do something we like. And what we like, we both agree, is that we love spending time in the sun. We love to spend time in Greece. We want to be more with our family. And as our kids grow, we want to spend quality time with our parents who have that much years of energy. So that was our intention together. So from that moment on, we really started a much higher quality of life as parents. I believe that was a turning point.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was it. And we have a few friends who said, you're an example to us. We see how it's possible to be growing and being happy as parents. And so sometimes when people say you are our role model, or this is the type of parenthood that I would like to be, it feels great. I mean, it's nice if we can inspire other parents to do that, because this is not the typical model that I think we're doing. So it's really nice. And that was the beginning of DYL. And then when I was laid off from the second corporate job, I was like, okay, let me take some time off to really reconnect with what I want to do. And I will make it short, but long story short, DYL was always in my mind.
Yeah.
And then
as a resource and a powerful tool that you had, in fact, designed part of your life. Sounds like you designed your leisure time with your husband, which is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So
then you took the time.
Yeah, so I took the time, and I think the big question coming for corporate was, what do I want to do? So my personal question is what to select from. Do I want to go back to corporate? No. Do I want to be a freelance? Yes. Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Highly attracted by it. So I had these two questions of which road am I taking?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing that story because maybe some other people may have that type of question.
And I think many others actually.
Yeah. And in our framework, we also talk about decision making. But for me, I didn't know about that decision making process. And so it took me a year to take the decision. And so and so I'm going to make it very brief, but I went to a constellation retreat. And that was my question. Do I want to be an entrepreneur, or do I want to be a freelance? And it's like, why do you ask yourself this question? Because I personally cannot do two, 3, 4, 5 things at the same time. I need to focus. So that's why I wanted to select one. That was my way of thinking. And the outcome of that is like, why do you worry? try and you will see, you know, like just try and see if it's right. And this is the whole principle of designing your life, is you have to go out there, you have to test, and then you have to see what feels right. Because you will never get the answer by strategizing everything in your head. You have to let it go.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're going to blaze a new path, if you're not going to take the road that everyone has taken, you have to beta test. And I think that that's actually a lot of people know that strategy from creating software or, agile frameworks for creating things. But it really feels like that's being designed to your life. Like, don't have an entire plan. Do, like, you know how you want to feel. Maybe where your end goal is, but getting there is not always a clear path if you're not in a corporate job or at a university track, something. Designing your life really is like building a custom home. And so having a framework for that is really, really helpful.
Yeah. So you mentioned about framework. So designing your life, for those who don't know, it's applying design thinking and positive psychology to yourself. So you mentioned it, like if you launch a product. So this comes from the Silicon Valley, right? So everyone in the tech business know about design thinking and they might know the theory, but good luck applying to yourself. So that's what we help you with. We are your guide into applying it. And so that's why we say acquiring skills, because as a tech person, you might know the theory, but then how do you solve a problem that is not market, but it's your. And so it is, if you know design thinking, you will be very familiar with the framework, but applying to yourself is quite a slightly different experience for a fact.
Yep. I always say I apply this to every part of my life, but like it's really hard to see things when they're yours sometimes. So I could help someone pick out an outfit for themselves, but sometimes I hire a stylist for myself because I can't see my own. It's too close to me. And actually, sometimes when you're trying to acquire skills or look objectively at something, it's helpful to do that with a guide or a coach or having a framework or in community to have people reflect back to you and learn these new skills and apply them to your life story.
Percent. I think even we always say we do it, 100%. It's hard to apply it for yourself. And why do you think psychologists always have a psychologist, or etc., etc.? Even if you're a business coach, you will have your own business coach, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely applying what you teach and having someone to guide you is important. And so that's why I'm really keen, like in a few years, to do the workshop for myself as a participant, because you always learn and reflect. And it's one thing to teach, it's another to be a student.
Yeah. So tell us about it. So it sounds like you're applying these methods, but what is that like? Where does it start? Kind of walk us through what that process looks like.
Yeah. So you go through different steps, 5 steps, but so you want to know, it's like the journey. So during
if someone's feeling, where do people usually enter? They're feeling some sort of like disillusionment, or maybe they're at a crossroads, or they're not quite getting where they want to go. Is that where you usually find people? Like, where do they usually meet you?
This framework is, I think I had a testimonial, few of them, who said designing your life is for everyone and everyone should do it at their one point of their life. And in fact, 75% of us human will go through sometime a life transition where we feel stuck. So we talk about it, we think about it, we don't take the step. And that can be a different phase of your life. It could be early, it could be late, it could be in the middle. And so usually what the people would feel the most need for a framework like designing your life is when they want to take a step, or they've been thinking for a while, or they have to take a decision about where to go next. And they want to go from enough of thinking and thinking and thinking, I need to go to action plan. Mm-hmm. And the reason why you're stuck can be very different. So the framework that we use can help you at the beginning, the middle, the end, it doesn't matter. So what do we teach and how can we help? Some people don't know where to go because they don't understand where there is a misalignment. So we help there. So basically we do a manifesto, or what we call a life view and work view. So we'd say, okay, where do you want to be? What's your vision of life? What's your vision of work? And then you compare them. And then you see, While here, I'm super aligned, everything's good. Or here it's like, this is really an area where I want to work on. I can see that I'm not satisfied in this area. Most people know. I think 60% of the people who come is because there's something that they're not satisfied, usually in the workplace. So that 60% of our audience is usually like they want to change something within their work environment. We talk about stories, limiting belief. So why got you to where you are? And what has been the drive? So we talk about this, what drives you, what stops you. And having that clarity, it's a big work. So what a lot of the module we do, we may do it in 1 hour. You may need 6 months more to do it, but you get the framework. You understand how it works. And sometimes you have immediate responses, and sometimes you will take more time to get your responses. And then once you're there, you're like, okay, well, I have identified very clearly that this is what I want to work on. But what is the challenge? So how do I phrase this challenge? It's the module calling Getting Unstuck. And there we teach about rephrasing, reframing. Because a lot of the times, the reason why you get stuck is because you ask yourself the wrong question that doesn't allow for a solution to happen. So if you say, yeah, I want to, typically, and I'm guilty of that for a long time, and that's why I was stuck for 3 years, it's like, yeah, I want to change, but the field that I want to work on, I'm never going to have the same paycheck. And that's it. You end up here. So then you just directly in your sentence put barriers that doesn't allow you to even open yourself to look at option, dream, and envision a different future for yourself. So here, this is a big, big part. How do you phrase your challenge correctly? That's probably one of the hardest modules.
Yeah.
And then you go into, now I understand, like, this is what I want to work on. Very good. And there, we teach also creativity and brainstorming. So we as individual, we are in a certain routine, in a certain environment, certain friends. And if you're stuck, it's maybe because you don't come with new ideas. So what we help you is from this phrase, from this challenge that you phrase, that we always start with, how might I, it's solution oriented. Yeah. Then you will get, we do a rounds of brainstorming. So people will write in your board. So I will not give you all the secrets, but then after this session, you're like, okay, well, I have the most stupid ideas, and like, that's really triggering me something. Oh, this is really great that I never thought of. Oh, this is something I've been thinking of for like 5 years, never done anything. And then from there, we help you select what is the thing you want to work on. So we help you select, and we go through a small process of decision making, like how do you take decision? Because here again, why are people stuck? Sometimes it's because they don't know how to choose. They have so many options, then they do everything and they don't do anything right. Or they are like stuck into what to choose and they don't do anything. So helping taking decision about, let's go for it. Then you have selected something you want to work on. And obviously you can keep this other idea on the side, but we will only work with 1 or 2 max.
And this is usually in the group sessions, right? So this is in a group, this is in your seminars. Do you also, and by the end of that, you have kind of a group of people that know your goal, your problem statement, and you have kind of a mini start of a community.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So yeah. So everything you do in communities, in groups. So this is the very specific style of designing your life. Is that we're not doing one-to-one. You're not gonna, I most probably sometimes don't know the details of some of my participants because they go really deep. They will share it with other participants. So you get to meet a lot of people because we always shift.
Yeah, nice.
And there's a lot of power in getting insight and feedback of other one's story. But this is usually outside the exercise, but you're like, oh, that really triggered me, Sim, and you told me this. And then you have lunch and you have break and then you have drinks at night. And then all of this really like bubbling of ideas and inspiration. And the group dynamic, you said it earlier, like the mirroring, instead of mirroring in front of one person, you mirror in front of many people. And it's like, what are people feeling and seeing from what you're saying? So you have multiple mirror. And that's like the distance you may need sometimes.
Yeah. And also sometimes just saying your vision out loud a bunch of times, you don't get a lot of practice doing that. It's really like they say, in startup world, like practice your pitch, but this is also the opportunity to like practice your dream, practice what's not there yet, practice living in that future you in front of people. That's really powerful. It's very somatic. And getting that feedback over and over again, that could take you on your own months and years of coffees, and maybe you never do it. But in this setting, where everybody is designing their life, which is actually a very bold thing for some people to say, I want to go somewhere else. It's quite vulnerable, I think, for most people. And so in this safe space, you can practice, you can live in that future vision and have how you're interacting with that reflected back to you in a very safe way, but also constructive way, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
completely. I think you said a few keywords about vulnerability and safe space. And there is quite a magic when you can open up to strangers, because they will not judge you. And probably you may never met them. You may or may not meet them again. And they're in the same situation. So you can be more yourself with strangers than people you know really well.
Yeah.
Because you will meet them
Especially,
again. The
yeah,
filter
especially
is
in,
easier. It's easier to open
yeah.
up.
Yeah. And when everybody's in that, this is what I've found in my life is not everybody it's kind of lonely if you don't find other people who are kind of like, I don't like this. I want to change it. Right. Like for me, it's a very natural skill. And as an entrepreneur, like that is taking something from 0 to 1 is actually really vulnerable. And not a lot of people do it. And not a lot of people want to do it. But when you find someone who has that either experience or desire and bravery, you really have something in common. And even if you don't want to take something from 0 to 1, it's your life. You're taking it from what it is now into a future vision that you don't know how to get to yet. And so that is very, very, very vulnerable. And to have a group of people who all have woken up and said, actually, I want my life to go somewhere else. You can practice this even before you bring your vision to your spouse or your kids or your parents. I think that people underestimate how vulnerable it is to say, I don't like my life exactly how it is right now. I want to change it.
Exactly. You said it. I don't like my life now, but you don't want to admit it. That's why some people don't want to go to a specialist, and they don't want to go, because what we do is like teaching skill of designing your life. So it sounds less for those who have like this pride. It's like, well, some people literally come for like self-growth, but most of the people have that pain. And then it's like, well, you know what? We all came for that, so it's okay. No one else has to know.
Yeah, but it's not like, and I think that comes sometimes from this place of being grateful. I have this thing about being grateful. And so when I was going through my own transition, I had this thing where every day I was like, someone would love my life. Why am I so ungrateful? And so that was the belief that held me back for a long time. I should feel grateful. People would kill to be in my life, but it's not my dream. This is not my dream that I'm living right now. It's someone's dream, but it's not mine.
Exactly.
And to speak to people about that was very like, people would be like, what are you complaining about? I'm like, that is not what is happening right now. I am trying to figure out what's going on because I am not happy in someone's dream life that is not my dream. And so that is actually, not a lot of people understand that. It's like an awakening.
Yeah. I would go further, because what happened is that maybe the life you live now is the dream you had yesterday, but your dream has changed. And so that's the thing that you have to you need to first realize that to be able to take the steps, because that's where, like, I lived a life that was something I designed 10 years ago, but I grew, and therefore it was no longer suiting me, and my need changed and my stories changed. It's helped me like to talk to people who were like, realize that. So then I realized myself as well, like, I'm no longer looking for this and this and that. I have grown, and it's now time to redesign my life, because we don't design a life once and then we're done. Sorry. You have to do this exercise on and on and on and on. When you feel there's a change and you're growing, you have new aspiration.
Yep. And that's such a good point. And this is what we say always is, create your life story with intention is how we talk about it at House of Peregrine. This is one really powerful way to do it. This set of what you're teaching and what you're providing for people. I wish they were taught in school. Why do you think we don't learn these skills in as kids?
I cannot tell you why.
Yeah.
But I know that we have some demands in some countries to teach DYL to students.
Good.
So then it's more like, how can we get the grants to make this happen? There is a demand. And DYL is actually it's big in China, because a lot of students, when they graduate, they don't know what to do next. So there is a big demand in China. But it's the question of many parents. Actually, I have a few parents who came and wanted to take their kids. And I was like, great, but they come by themselves next time. They don't have to do the exercise with mommy. So I was like, absolutely, but probably not together, because, you want to be completely open. And so that could be a filter for not to be completely yourself.
Yeah, of course. And I think that, but my question is, well, I don't know if my question,
But why is it not taught in school, you said, right?
Yeah. I mean, not why, but I really think that some of us had to piece these skills together and are continually doing it, right? So you just think, I'm the only crazy one. But then again, it's this, I call it kind of an awakening. If you're looking at your life, really paying attention to how you feel in your life, if you're thriving at the level you expect, and if you're really living in the life you really want. Some people are more open to not having that than others. And so I always think of those as like the crazy founders. Like I'm always looking for these people that have stuck their head up and been like, I mean, my life's pretty good, but inside it doesn't feel like my life yet. And so that is a very distinct group of people.
Yeah. Cheers to you. This is exactly where I was.
Yeah.
It's great on paper. It's good, but it's not exact. There's something. Because when I was telling my story and then people open up, it's like, oh yeah, me too. Like the manager was horrible and I was under pressure and I was burnt out. I was like, no, I have a lot of flexibility. The company's great. The culture is great. The paycheck is great. My family is great. The house is great. The country is great. So why'd you complain? It's because my intuition tells me there's more for me to give to this world. And so sometimes it's not the paper says it's good. And if I compare myself to many, it's actually so much better. And yet there's something, inside you that there's a call. And listening to that is hard.
Yeah. Well, I think we're conditioned not to. I honestly think that. I think we're conditioned to and being grateful is super powerful, important, and very, 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 I can't say but for me, that was one of my blocks. You should feel grateful. You should stay where you are. You should feel grateful. You should feel grateful. That was the thing that I had to overcome. Isn't that strange? You should feel grateful.
No, I totally get it. That's why sometimes, like, when I'm grateful, is like, is this me saying me it's okay to be where you are, or is really so? There are things I'm always grateful for, and there are other things I recognize. But where are you heading? Allowing yourself to think something different. Yeah, it takes time. Huh?
Yeah, it takes time. It takes these skills, I really think. And I think the other thing is I don't know how to call it besides entitlement. And I know that word is used quite frequently as a negative thing. But I think maybe particularly for women, and maybe it's just my culture where I came from, you actually need a healthy sense of entitlement that you can build a life that suits you really. And you don't have...
It's your, how do you say? Your, in French, devoir.
Your right?
It's not only your right, it's something you must do, like voting.
Your birthright. Oh yeah, your obligation.
It's the only person that can really design your life is yourself. So if you want it, you have the obligation to believe you can do it, because no one else will give it to you. Like, this is the major point. If you expect your manager, if you expect the industry, if you expect your husband, if you expect the world, if you expect everything to happen from outside, and you don't know what you want inside, I'm afraid it's not going to happen. If you know the direction you're going and you took the time to understand what's in you, then maybe things will happen because you have a vision and you can phrase it. And then you will be attracted to the people and the things that are going towards that vision. That's what I believe.
Yeah. And I think what's become more and more relevant in my life is what's inside is reflected outside much, much more than I ever thought possible. And so having a framework and a process for when you feel those little discontentment, they creep in, they're like, and if you're paying attention, they happen years before their change happens. And it's just like that first, like, okay, You take note. Okay. And it really is this signal that something's coming to an end, right? Which is our entire life is a series of these things, right? These transitions. So for me, that's where I start going, oh, okay. I don't get anymore. I don't get scared. I start thinking, okay, it's time to pay attention. And then that process has really helped me through. And it's helped me through figure out what inside is saying so that my outside can reflect. And having tools like Design Your Life would have made it so much less lonely to go through
And
these
quicker,
transitions.
probably.
Yeah, quicker. And my path is my path, and I'm so grateful for it. Saying that grateful word again. And it had to be my path. But I really love what you're doing with Design Your Life, and I hope that people will check it out if they want these skills.
Yeah.
And so how can people find you? Like, what is the process? You have seminars in Amsterdam and online?
So currently, we're gonna have our next workshop in June, 13 to 15 in Amsterdam in the Pipe. And this is the workshop currently. And then if that date doesn't work, then you can call me and then I can tell you when we have a new one and a new framework, I can inform you. And the way to find me is, of course, we have a website called designingyourlife.com and we have a bit of more information. And we have webinars as well. So in the website, you can see when's the next webinar. So we guide you through a bit of the process and we have 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. And also sometimes I'm doing workshops that are more experimental and therefore more affordable. So if you can get to know me, or I'm also at Equals, or I'm in general in the Amsterdam scene. So you can find me there physically or of course online on LinkedIn.
And then we didn't talk too much about it, but you did tease us a little bit with sometimes you work with couples.
Yes. So this is my dream. My dream is to experience what I experienced with my husband and share it with others. Mm-hmm. So my vision is that, I come from a Catholic background, and my husband is not Catholic. But my brother went through this counseling of marriage. So this is kind of a life design through religion. But a lot of people don't have that framework, and I don't know if it's a good one, but at least it makes you think. Sometimes I have some specialists and coaches like, oh, I'm also working with couples and divorces and problems. Like, no. I'm not into fixing anything. I'm not into conflict resolution. I'm here for people who are intentional about living a life that is more aligned together.
Yeah.
And so it can be at the beginning, you just get married. It can be in the middle when there's a change, someone goes back to the workplace, we need to adjust. It can be when the kids are leaving the house and it's like a new life opening to them. So it can be any stage of like couple, but in a place of love and intention.
Yeah. Building. You want to build together.
Build.
Yep. So you're already committed that you want to build together. You might just not know how.
Exactly.
And so taking some time to be intentional like you did in those days in Bali. I love that. My partner and I have a similar cadence. But without it, we would have been toast. I mean, there's just if you have these transitions and if you're intentional about them, they can be amplified and be collective. Otherwise, in my experience, you kind of end up turning against each other and then you have to find your way back.
Yeah, when there's friction and lack of understanding, that's when usually, it happens. It's just like miscommunication sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's a lack of alignment. Yeah. Because if your life story, you dream of it looking like this, you're just going to do that. And if you and your partner are doing that, sometimes it does this. And that can be okay. That's natural. It's not that breaking up is bad, but what if you want to stay together? So how can you be intentional about designing your life together?
Exactly.
And for international people, it's doubly important, I believe. So if you've just arrived to a country or if you're thinking about designing your life in this next phase, whatever it is, even if that's a new country, I think is especially important.
Yeah, completely agree.
Cool.
And I see that a lot because, we're at the fair and I see couples and like someone is coming, like a woman is coming for her job, her husband is following, and then it's like, yeah, I'm left behind and what do I do? And so having that internal individual alignment and then like doing this job together. So I think it's nice to work on yourself and then then work together.
Yeah. And it's almost like, so there's marriage counseling, of course, there's therapy, there's coaching, there's couples coaching, but then this is like a totally different thing. This is, how do you build a life intentionally together? What does our map look like?
I think it's completely unique, because what I'm mixing is, I love holidays. And I believe that if you want to have true important decision, you need to be in a nice place. You need to be in a nice environment. You want to feel the vibe of building. If you're like in the stress, like after work, we go and we have to design from 3 to 4, and like we have not achieved. No, I think this is my vision of what building is, which is a really nice environment, a community where you're like, oh, I'm building and I'm learning from this other couple, how they did it. And on top of that, you bring a framework. And on top of that, because we have a test retreat in July with only 5 couples.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Where I invited a friend of mine who's a communication expert. So we're going to blend, how do you communicate? How do you design your life? And in an environment that is extraordinary. So this is the uniqueness. I believe there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
In this country and in this continent.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I think that's, I want to bring that to House of Peregrine. Let's do that next year. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I can't wait to keep following along. People can find you at your website. We'll also put it below. You mentioned it. For the couple stuff, also designyourlife.no?
Yes, same. Okay, retreat section.
Retreat section. Perfect. Thank you for all your wisdom, sharing your story. I really think people are going to resonate with what you're saying. And I love that you're bringing something new to the space of intentionality. So thank you so much for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you for coming on.